Good evening and welcome to our first evening edition of Saturdays with Stephanie. We're going to be in the clock time slot from now on as shifted to all of our online content being at 5 p.m. So I hope that this is a special way for you to engage, whether it's a devotion with my husband or worship on Sunday night, or these little times that I get to have with all of you. And I'm really grateful that we can continue this journey together. Tonight, I want to talk to you about letting go. Now, this isn't a thing of letting go of anger or confusion or hatred or any of those emotional things, but we might get to that in a little bit. But first and foremost, I wanted to show you, I have a couple of bags like this. We're going to be hauling these to Neighborhood Needs, and I'm going to put information about Neighborhood Needs in the description of this video. It's the food pantry and clothing pantry that our church is connected to. There's actually several churches that are involved in it. So it's a bunch of clothes that we've cleaned out of our closet, and I'm guessing right now during this time, at least while you were at home and before things started to open up, I'm guessing you've spent some time cleaning out your house. Sometimes it's hard to let go of stuff. Now, I have an easier time than others with letting go of things, and I acknowledge that fact. Some of that has to do with the fact that I have moved many times in my life. I am not just a pastor's wife, I'm also a pastor's kid. I would move back and forth to college every year, taking my stuff back and forth. Now, granted, that was just a dorm room worth of things, but I would actually have to move a few times each year during that time because I'd work at camp in the summer. So it was move to college, stay there for the school year, move home, repack my stuff, move to camp to work there for the summer, come back home, repack again, go back to college. And I would do this for several years while I was in school. Since we've been married, we have lived in St. Louis, 3 different places in the Buffalo, New York area, Cleveland, Ohio area, and now 2 different communities in Texas. And while we've lived in Fort Worth, we have actually lived in 3 different homes. When we first moved, we were living in an apartment. And then we found a house to rent for about 3 years, and it was an incredible blessing. And then we were blessed to be able to buy the home that we're in now. So my hope is we won't be moving for a very long time. But what I've learned is through this moving process, you really learn to assess your stuff and what you love and what you don't need. So for me, every time the moving process, the very beginning part of it is to immediately clean out the things that we don't love or use or need. And then while I'm packing, it's kind of following that Marie Kondo method of holding something in my hands. Now, I'm not one to thank an object as I let go of it. I think that's getting a little too out there for my personal taste. But I will actually hold the item in my hand as I'm about to pack it and ask myself, do I use this? Do I love it? And if I can't answer yes to at least one of those, preferably both, it does not go in a box. It does not get packed for the new home. It's one of the ways that I've been able to lighten our load each and every time we've moved. Now, sometimes have been more radical with getting rid of things than others, particularly when we moved from Ohio to Texas. That particular move, it was anything that I didn't think would survive the move, including things like inexpensive plastic drawers and carts and things like that, lesser expensive pieces of particle board furniture, bookcases, that kind of thing. Just looking at it and going, will it even survive a long distance move? If it won't, it's probably better just to let it go now and replace it as needed down the road. So that's kind of been my method of dealing with stuff. And I'm guessing you've been dealing with a lot of stuff as you've been sitting in your homes and spending more time there, maybe realizing, hey, these things are helpful. These things over here maybe aren't as helpful, and cleaning them out. But I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about cleaning out some other things in your life. And that's looking at your calendar. And I think it's one of the gifts of this pandemic for us is almost everything stopped for a time period. And things still haven't resumed the way that they used to. Social distancing still keeps us from being able to do a lot of the gatherings together with people. And I think this gives us an opportunity to examine what are the things that are important and what are the things that we can let go of. Maybe you used to go out for happy hour with your coworkers every night after work, and now you've been at home with your family and enjoying more time with them. Maybe it's time to let go of that tradition when you return to the office, to examine that and see if that's really what you need to have in your life. Maybe your kids are enrolled in every activity under the sun, and you are convinced that this will be the key to their later success in life. But now you're starting to get to know your children as people, as individuals, because you actually are spending time together in your home. And you're finding how much you appreciate how funny your son is, or how creative your daughter is, or whatever that might be. I would encourage you to seek out more ways that you can spend time together, even as activities start to resume. Maybe all of the running around hasn't been serving us as well as it could. For me personally, I've been using grocery delivery apps for a few years now. I've found that it made my life a lot easier to not have one more chore of going to the stores. Since this all happened, we have adapted to having whatever we can possibly have delivered to us rather than going out and getting it, risking being exposed. Now, what I've done instead is to look at that as, first of all, I'm serving someone in the community that might not otherwise have a way to work right now. And two, I tip a lot more than I used to for those things. It used to be I was pretty much a steady 10% tipper unless it was right before Thanksgiving or Christmas when the stores were nuts. And now I'm consistently tipping 15 to 20%. Even if I'm not thrilled with the shopper and every once in a while you kind of get a dud, I still know that they are risking their health to go and purchase things for me. So while I may not give them a great rating, still giving them a good tip. That's been one of the things that I've committed to during this time. And it's really worthwhile to me to have one less thing on my plate to have to deal with. I can plan my meals, I can do my shopping list, and then I can plug it all into the app and set a time that I want it to be delivered, maybe the next day or whatever. And I don't need to deal with running to the store. So that for me has been a way of alleviating something from the schedule. For you, maybe you really miss getting the chance to go to the grocery store and check all those things. Maybe you've been doing curbside pickup, whatever it is. And that's the other piece to this too, is while we can look at what things are we willing to let go of, I think the other piece is we also look at what do we really love. So going back to what I talked about with the things in your home, when we were cleaning out clothes, it was a process of, yes, I'm getting rid of this, I'm getting rid of that. But then these things over here, I really love. I still wear them. I still use them. When it comes to things that I was packing for this most recent move that we had in December, it was choosing to pack the things that I really love and really use. So that goes for your schedule too. Maybe you have a monthly get together with your friends and you really miss it right now and you're trying to replicate it through Zoom or having phone calls or things like that, and it's just not the same. That's an indicator that this is something to keep, to hold on to. So I want to commend that to you, to just kind of be examining as you're looking at the stuff in your home and what to get rid of. Also consider looking at the stuff in your calendar, in your lives, and decide what to get rid of there. And I want to read to you a short passage from the book of Ecclesiastes. And if this sounds familiar to you, chances are you're my age or older, and it sounds an awful lot like a song that you've heard. Well, guess what? The lyrics for the song came from this Bible passage. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Some of those verses really jump out right now. A time to refrain from embracing. It's hard for the huggers out there. I know that. I told you last week that I'm not a hugger, but my husband definitely is, and it's hard for him to not hug people. When we gathered for worship last week, Sunday for the first time, and Wednesday night, I kept hearing him say over and over, "Oh, I wish I could give you a hug." But right now, it's a time to refrain from embracing, a time to keep and a time to cast away. And that was the verse that I was thinking about with this. With everything, there's a season for keeping it and for letting it go, whether it's items in your home or things on your calendar or different kinds of attitudes that might be taking root in your heart. There's always room to grow and learn more and open yourself up to what God is showing you in this time. So I just thank you so much for being with me this evening. I pray that your worship experience tomorrow or Wednesday, or if you're not even joining us for worship because you are part of another congregation, whatever day it is that you worship, I pray that it is a blessing to you. Remember, our online worship service will be at 5 p.m. tomorrow night, and we are going to stop doing the premiere. So it will be available at 5 p.m., but you can start it at any time. We realized that that was kind of a hindrance for those that are trying to utilize it. So if you're coming online at 5:30, you can start the service right at 5:30. Whatever it is that works best for your household. But if you're able to join us in person on Sunday morning or Wednesday night, we look forward to seeing you then. Please contact the church if you need anything. We are here to help. We have people willing to deliver items if you need them, can bring you things, whatever. Reach out to us if you're interested in in-person worship, because we're trying to limit the numbers at those services. So we need to know how many are coming in advance. And we generally reach a point where we have to say, okay, we can't take anybody else for this service. And also let us know if there are other days and times that work for you to worship. Because as more people feel more comfortable with coming back to worship with the social distancing we've set up, we may have to offer other services just to make sure we have enough room. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I pray the Lord blesses the rest of your weekend and that you have a good night and good rest. Bye.